afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Twomey Estelric. I am the director of the Center for Ignatian Spirituality and the faculty advisor of Alpha Sigma Nu Boston College Chapter, the Honor Society of Jesuit Universities, who are proud to sponsor today's last lecture. We gather today for a special occasion, a moment to celebrate the legacy and trajectory of one of our esteemed faculty members. While we call it a last lecture, please understand that this is not simply a concluding academic address. Rather, it is an opportunity to encapsulate the wisdom, the impact, and the very essence of the individual we honor this afternoon. Today, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you Professor David Twomey. A born and raised Bostonian, Professor Twomey graduated from Boston College High School in 1956 and subsequently served in the U.S. Marine Corps until 1958. He furthered his education with degrees from the Carroll School and BC Law, and holds an MBA from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. He joined the Carroll School of Management faculty in 1968 and has served on countless committees and forums. A highly respected labor arbitrator since 1974, Professor Twomey has been selected by employers and unions to arbitrate more than 2,000 labor management disputes across both the private and public sectors throughout the United States. He has also been selected by 6 different United States presidents to a remarkable 10 presidential emergency boards. That is, expert panels convened to resolve major national rail and airline industry disputes. Professor Twomey recently retired from Boston College after an impressive 56 years on the faculty. So the author of some 35 editions of widely used textbooks on labor, employment, and business law topics, Professor Twomey has also published articles in esteemed journals such as the American Business Law Journal, Labor Law Journal, and the Business Law Journal, among many others. He's a member of both the Massachusetts and Florida bars. Do I need to provide more qualifications to provide his suitability for this lecture? Probably not, but I'm sure we will learn even more aspects and nuances about his life, his experiences at Boston College, and his scholarship during his lecture. So please join me in a round of applause to welcome Professor David Twomey, our 2025 last lecturer.
Well, thank you very much. So this was just a piece of cake doing. Remarkably, I can't believe all the time that it consumed, and my team at home will get to talk to you guys in a bit, but we got it done, so to speak, about 10 minutes ago we finished. And we'll start with thank you to the Sisters of St. Joseph of Boston. Thank you to the Jesuits at BC High, Boston College, and BC Law. And of course, thank you to so many of my friends and their wonderful help over the years, giving me the opportunities that I have received. So let's start with January 1, New Year's Day, 1941. It's around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just so excited about this. And Boston College and the heavily favored University of Tennessee are playing football in the Sugar Bowl. Could this be true? I am 22 months old, so I'm a big guy. And we're listening to the radio with my dad and my 2 older brothers, John, age 4, and Edmund, age 6. And Dad shouts out, We won, lads. The BC team, Tennessee, they beat them. Oh, my goodness, thanks to an interception by Chuck and Charlie O'Rourke. He had a brogue, you know. And we saying we're undefeated. We surely won the national championship. Let's hear it. You know, this is awesome. Everyone's excited about this. I love a crowd like this. Yeah. BC. They had 300 boys in a class out here on the campus. There were people downtown. But 300 in a class, a boys' school, a day school, beating the University of Tennessee, who were highly favored. So when these guys came home, it was exciting. 100,000 people show up at South Station. So it was in a snowstorm. So this is really a major part of our history here at Boston College. So let's go forward. The war began, unfortunately, on December 7, 1941. And it's now November 1944. These numbers don't sound right, do they? 1944, and someone is still talking. I'm in the first grade, and it's going to St. Andrew's School in Forest Hills. Does everyone know where Forest Hills is? We got a lot of ads on buses. You've seen them around, okay? Sister Hieronyma is the first grade teacher, and there are 40 kids in there. And this is a new school over in Forest Hills, a segment of Rosendale and Jamaica Plain. So the school had just opened. This was the third year. We were the third class, and there were 3 nuns and a principal. The sister in charge said, we're going to have photographs today for the families, and we're looking forward to that. And there's a little boy over there who has a tear in his eyes, and he says to the sister, okay, I think I can quote this. Sister, my mom said I'm supposed to wear my sailor suit for pictures to send home to Ireland. Okay. And so they have a meeting, and they change it to the afternoon. So the pictures were taken. Okay. Oh, that's a little boy. Okay. Well, that's great. We'll leave that up there. That's a special one. Okay. Okay. We go forward. The second grade really was wonderful. I had Sister Katrina, and she had just started at the St. Andrew's School, and so I was her third class. And when she started, she was 18 years of age. Okay, so these nuns were just basically taking courses as they went forward. And the class went in just a delight. And they had a novena in March. Father Dolan, the pastor, used to have always Jesuits. Everyone had Jesuits for the novena of grace in March. But the pastor said, no, we're going to use a Passionist. We got a better deal on the Passionist. So the Passionist was giving a lecture to the 3 grades from St. Andrew's School and the public school, which was mostly Catholic. They just didn't have the school. And so he asked a question, how does the clock work? How does that go? And so, 8 grades of kids were hollering out things. And a little boy in the second grade said, the works. And he came down. Did you say that? And he's pointing at me. And I said, well, yeah, okay. Now, did I know that the clock works by the fact that it has works? I don't know if that was either something, but I said it. But I think as well that maybe someone in the 4th grade might have said that too, But anyway, it was said, and the Passionists made a big deal about it. And Sister Katrina wrote on the sideboard in chalk, we held it up for a week, David Twomey 100, okay? So I'm going to be telling you, that's one of the high points of my entire life, academic life, okay? Okay, so we get to the 3rd grade, things don't go as well. The Catholic Church had used the imagery of God the Father as an older man with long white hair and a long white beard. And this is teaching the Trinity. And so the sky is blue. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. And it's just an extraordinary cumulus clouds, two of them, join beautifully up in the sky. And I'm amazed that I'm looking, and I'm thinking, is that God the Father? Okay. Should I tell sister? And I go back and all that. Then I hear, David Twomey, what are you doing? Are you paying attention? And so I respond, okay? I respond. I was watching the clouds, okay? I was watching the clouds. But everyone knows here now today, this is the first time I'm telling people, okay, that we saw God the Father come by on March 14th, 1947 in Forest Hills, okay? We saw it at St. Andrews. So this was a big time. I've got a picture. My brother is going to be here, but a picture of him in the sky, and, you know, it's really persuasive to see the cloud and all that stuff. And, of course, this was, you know, a way of trying to teach something to young kids that I don't think is used anymore. But we own that over in Forest Hills. Okay, so report cards came starting in the 4th grade at St. Andrews. And my brother John got all A's. He's 2 years ahead of me, or 2 years in between us, but he's 1 year ahead of me in the 4th grade. And so John comes home and shows his report card, and he has all A's. And I simply say, well, I'll get all A's too next year. You know, right? I didn't. Okay. And a pattern sort of had started. So morning classes, they started at 9 a.m. and went to 11:45. Then we would go home for lunch, which was really just a wonderful treat. You'd look forward to going home with your pals, and there'd be something exciting that we'd talk about, and then go back in the afternoon. And so, anyway, this was the high point. I'm not sure I can tell anything about what would happen there, but exciting things happened. In the 5th grade, at Christmas time, my mom bought a Radio Flyer red wagon for me. And we would use this to bring groceries from the store, especially like potatoes. We were, you know, every day started with potatoes and in large sacks of flour. Mom would make bread for all of the facilities up at school, and she would make 10 loaves of bread. And so we used a lot of heavy things like that. But me, you know, being in the Carroll School, hey, okay, I saw this as a business opportunity. And so I brought my red wagon down and asked people when they came out with their groceries, would you like me to carry them? And I have my cart, and I'm 10 years old at this time. And gradually, people expected me to be there, and I got a business going, and I did this for 4 years. And I want to tell you that my business was, you know, very, very good. And the manager of the First National didn't like it because he had a son. He brought his son down and put him inside. And he would ask people, do you want me to help you with that? And they would say, no, David is taking it. And so his name was Mike Moylan, and everyone's Irish, okay? So he's an Irish grouch, and I think he drinks. But, I mean, what's new there? But I think he drinks a lot. So Mike told me, from now on, you don't come in the store. And it was cold out. Anyway, as my customers would come by, I would mention, oh, by the way, Mr. Moylan doesn't allow me in the store, had one of the people carry it out. And so he had, about a half hour later, he's carrying out the groceries himself to my cart. And he says through his teeth, you can come in now, okay? So that didn't work, you know, and nothing worked. And it would be raining and lousy and everything like that, but that was my job. And maybe on Good Friday it was really tough because Lent had 40 days, and it's 3 o'clock, we're out, and I've got my customers, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, and the old pastor is going through all of the ceremony, the 6th station, okay? And he was from Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which is basically a French-Canadian place where there's a lot of manufacturing going on. It's sort of not an Irish community, but he's Irish, you know, descent. And when he would get to the 6th station of the cross, he would say, the 6th station of the cross, Veronica commonly mispronounced Veronica, wipes the face of Jesus, okay? We're going to come back to that, Veronica, okay? And this is my wife, Veronica, in the back, and I don't call her Veronica, okay? But it really had a little touch to it. Anyway, so the First National stores, by the way, were everywhere in those days. And then there were a lot of competition as the markets went to supermarkets. And they didn't really turn it well enough. And so a lot of their business was falling off and they were losing money. And guess who bought them? Wallace Carroll, our Wallace Carroll from the Carroll School. And he would buy properties like that, and I think they had something like 700 stores. There were 2 in Forest Hills, if you could believe this, because people just bought their groceries every day going home from work or whatnot, or send the kids down. And so Wallace Carroll bought them, the entity. And why would he do that? He was buying properties that had tax losses that he could use to offset some of the very big stuff that he was manufacturing out in the Midwest. And so he bought that, and he bought the Katy Railroad. And the Katy Railroad, had all kinds of losses. And he bought it simply for that, but it turned out to be shockingly successful because all of these entities had rail yards in the middle of the city, which you had to have to run a railroad, and that was real estate for development. And so he didn't hit a home run. I think he's something better than a home run with that stuff. So the Wallace Carroll connects to the First National stores. And we're getting that all here, okay, at noontime. So this is, does it get any better than this? I don't know. So we play ball. We got some stuff here. Can we run anything? Yeah, just anything that comes up, we'll go. Oh, we got it. Oh, we play ball. And so this is what the playground looks like today. In those days, we only had 5 children, okay? We're going to meet people that had 9 and 12. And there were kids everywhere. The war was just over, and just excitement everywhere. And we're going to see some nice houses and things there. It's really sort of a good place to be these days. And it was a great place to be there then because there was just excitement everywhere. And if you counted the bar rooms, there were 7, okay? And so no one was thirsty. And so let's just finish this up with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Boston arrived in St. Thomas's Parish. That's the adjoining parish in Jamaica Plain in 1873. And they opened an elementary school the next day, and they had 200 people apply. And at their height of staffing and sponsoring schools, the sisters sponsored 125 educational institutions out of this, and I can see some nuns here, okay? And so that is just terrific. Today, the Sisters of St. Joseph sponsor Fonbonne Academy, and they have a convent in the Alston, Brighton area. In my time, the sisters ran co-ed. They ran co-ed education for high school in St. Thomas's, and we have Dr. Clarity here. Is Dr. Clarity? John? He's down here. So John went to St. Thomas's and St. Thomas's High School, and there was word that they had one Bunsen burner there. But he came to BC and became, a naval officer in medicine, and then came and became the best in Boston young person's doctor. He was our doctor for our children. And so, he's one of our pride and joys. And we're going to see that, the BC education was just a wonderful foundation for all of the Catholic schools and then going on to the medical schools. And so, at my brother's class, my brother Ed, the oldest guy, he went in the seminary and became a Redemptorist priest. John Ryan from Cathedral at that time, his pal, went to BC and then Columbia Medical School and was a professor at Harvard Med ran a lab there. He's no longer with us, but he was a superstar. And again, coming out of Cathedral, and they loved it. It was co-ed, and the nuns could handle these guys, and they loved to be handled. They had fun there. And and Billy Sullivan, do you ever see Sully Mac? They do a lot of construction. So Billy Sullivan was part of Sully Mac. He retired early. I think McLaughlin now continues to run it big time. And Billy McKinney was the fourth guy, and Billy McKinney was an administrator for the Boston Public Schools. And Billy McKinney really had a little bit of, let's say, tenacity. He played on the baseball team for St. Andrews, and the coach came out to relieve him because they were doing poorly. And he said, "No, I'm not giving you the ball." Okay? And so someone talked to him a little bit, and he gave up the ball. But all the McKinneys, we're going to talk about Bobby, his brother, was my pal, and they were a little bit stubborn. Okay, and so the backfield, we could look for the backfield somewhere. Okay, let me tell you what we got. So this is Harrison Avenue, the Jesuit residence when the Jesuits first came to Boston. And so we go to the left. We'll just keep on. We'll go to the next slide. And so that's the other side of the building. This is the old BC High. It was built in 1863. And I spent 2 years there, okay, before going over to the new school. So it was well worn out, but then it's been now rehabbed for condos. So it looks real good. But I would describe it in my time as a dump, okay? Maybe that would be too high, but it was just falling apart, and it was loaded with kids. I had over 500 kids in my freshman class that went there, and 220 graduated. And so there was a lot of, let's say, turnover and demanding presence. And sisters, the memorare, this was something that I didn't always do my homework. I think that you probably can tell that from my brother and me, basically. But the memorare would sort of get me aligned for my limited scope, saying, what is that person going to ask tomorrow? Okay, and so most of the time I'd catch on to what was going to be discussed in the exam and do a pretty good job. Anyway, we had the place where we played. If we can keep on going, this is Father Sullivan. This is the person who ran Alumni Hall. But this is a magnificent man. I'm looking, I want to, I've got so much to do, and so I don't want to waste time like I've been doing. So this is my mom and dad and Father Sullivan and me. And we can go to the next slide. And this is my brother John. He doesn't look like he's happy. And the other guy with his nose up in the air. Let's get out of here and go to the next one. Okay, that's my car, okay? And I pay $50 for that. And I'll turn out, we'll get to it. I lived at Alumni Hall. And so a taxi hit my car from the rear. And so I went down and talked to Town Taxi, and the person said, yeah, that's a junk. I'm not going to give you anything for that. And so I brought him to small claims court and made a big deal. So I, polished the car up, and we went down, and we had a lovely friend that would visit Father Sullivan. His name was Charlie Murphy, and he was a great football player at 165 pounds. And he would use big words. And so I had a speech that I gave, as you can imagine now, giving speech, because after a while you got to fill. When you become a professor, you have to be able to fill. You can't find anything, you go into fill. And usually what do? I go into personal attacks. If someone has yawned, then, So I go down to Roxbury District Court, and I park outside where the judge, I've got this all, like this is the biggest case in the world, so that the judge could see that the car was all shined up, and it had this big bump in the back. And so I invited the judge over to look out the window, and we won $150. And so, this was probably my best win. Okay. we had this place where we'll keep, okay. So this is Bobby McKinney. This is my pal. And Eddie Campbell. We were a threesome. And we used to play in the sandlot because by a garage, we will see it later. It was just a dumpy place. It was Denny Driscoll's garage, and it was a 1932 Ford. And of course, he couldn't use it because he was so old, and the car didn't work, and the garage was a mess. And so, but that would be our backstop, and we would, play. You could only run to one base and just have a way of having a match down there until we get bigger and bigger. And finally, Bobby caught a ball that, went through someone's window way beyond our expectations. And so we simply left in a big hurry, and we were afraid to go back there again. So, that ended that. So the Twomeys, therefore, never developed as baseball players, okay? They developed foot speed and a mouth. And so the eighth grade at St. Andrews, there were 39 kids graduating. There were 40 kids in the class. So we had 16 boys, and the rest were girls. That's how I avoided that mathematical computation. And this is Father Dolan, just an old grouch, okay? He was the pastor. And 23 out of the 39, but we did have 40, 23 out of the class, their parents came from Ireland. And everyone else was Irish except Carol Rose, and maybe 3 people that were not Irish. And so this is going to be a little bit of a theme, that we have this Irish thing in the heading, that I said this was not going to be heavy. So basically, Boston was a different place in those days. In Dorchester, every corner had a wonderful church and baseball teams and all kinds of activity. And 250 people lived in Dorchester at that time, all large families. And so, the churches have been, either knocked down and whatnot. Our church, St. Andrews, is not functioning, not functioning as a Catholic church, but it's a wonderful church in beautiful buildings, as we'll see, that is used by the Black community. And so it's just eloquent, really, in fact. And so I had a point that I was going to try to make. St. Patrick was from Wales, so he wasn't even Irish, okay? And we take this down, okay, and we're going to take a look behind. And who's that? That's the most beautiful mural, here on the campus, St. Patrick, okay? And so, is that pretty awesome? Can everyone see that? And on the 3rd floor is another incredible development of St. Patrick, a mural that's just wonderful. And so we're double St. Patrick here in this one building, okay? And he's from Wales. He's not even Irish, okay? But he's Irish. We know that he's Irish, right? And just like, in our time, everyone here at BC, when I was here in BC High, I'm going to say everyone, maybe 3/4. I mean, it's real high. And so now it's flipped, but all of the new people coming in, they're coming in from Venezuela, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, let's say, Europe. And, before we leave, and they leave, we're going to see that they're Irish too, but it's going to be Boston College Irish, okay? With a red bandana and an eagle and a little bit of a shamrock up there in the corner, okay? And so you become Irish by association and by having a big heart and loving everyone you can, okay? And seeing the good in things. And so, we'll get to that as we go forward. But okay, so I think I will get to... So we graduate from St. Andrews, and then there are 16 boys, and 8 of them go to BC High. And we go through BC High, and 6 of us graduate. And then everyone goes to Boston College. But I go to the Marine Corps because, basically you can tell by my build, that, I'm a killer. So, but I'm 17, I don't know what to do. And I talked to a Marine Corps recruiter, and he said, well, if your parents would sign, you're going to love the Marine Corps. And so I brought him out to see Mom, and Mom was asked, do they go to Mass, in the Marine Corps? Every day, Mrs. Twomey, every day, okay? And so I went in, and I sort of had no idea what I'd got myself into. And anyway, but I loved it. In 2 years, I just became the man, the linebacker that I am today. And but that was just a wonderful experience, doing the things that we were able to do and go to Puerto Rico and Panama, Venezuela, and things like fly down in a flying boxcar that you thought was never going to make it, 11 hours from Cherry Point, North Carolina to Puerto Rico. I thought, somewhere 11 hours, that seemed like just a little bit way down the street. And they gave us parachutes, and I think that they gave us sandwiches that were basically made of pork. I don't think it was a good match. But we thought for sure that we were going to have to jump because these planes were made before World War II. Okay, so BC High, let's talk a little bit about that. And so everyone worked in those days. You had a job, and I had my business down the street. And but between grammar school and high school, Mom took us to Ireland, and just Mom and 4 children. My brother Eddie was going to seminary, and Dad stayed home. And so somehow or other, in Forest Hills, wow, now the kid pulling carts is now taking a European vacation in luxury in Ireland. Well, they didn't have any running water and lots of things, but it was a wonderful experience, and we got to know all of our people and see what life was like in 1952, 53. And it was really, they were recovering from the Second World War, where they were really in bad shapes as far as they were neutral and had some problems. So BC High, well, I'm going to sort of step forward to say getting to senior year, and I had the same teacher that my brother had. And so they had awards nights. And my brother John sort of knew how to put things together. My dad worked for the New Haven Railroad. And so Dad got John a job as a car cleaner down in Hyannis, working at 4:30 and cleaning till you got done, which you could get done in a couple of hours sometimes. And then he worked for the state from 8 to whenever they had got their job done, and then worked also at the drive-in theater. So he's really hustling. And so I'm sort of thinking about that and seeing that that's true. And so I've got a little bit of a hook now. And one of the things that works out as you get older is the long-term memory, you remember everything, but the short one is, this is my student, what's your name? Just so the short-term memory is a little bit difficult. And anyway, I've got a point here. And so my brother John is going to get some awards, and I play the Irish accordion. And so the principal asked, David, would you entertain the people for awards tonight? And I said, sure. And then my brother John had asked his professor, his teacher, Father Ennis, I'm not going to be here, and would you allow my brother to pick up any awards that if I ever get one? And Father Ennis said, sure, just have him walk up and get them. So I played the accordion at halftime, and then they gave some awards out. So I went up and got one of the awards. People applauded the kid who played the accordion and little button Irish things. And he played it pretty good. And so I went up and got a second one, okay? I got 4, okay? And people were coming over, okay? And saying, unbelievable, and you look so young, And so, I just handled it gracefully, Thank you. So I had my day, And I said, working as hard as my brother John, getting grades like that, I can do without it, okay? So we go forward. And do you think that was a true story? It was, honestly. It was just like a sort of, shocking in a way. Okay, so let's, Chris, no, stay there and point out Father Dolan. Okay? Fine. And Father Dolan was the president of Boston College. We're going to see I don't have the numbers here, so I'm making them up, and I could be lying. But I think it's from 1929 through 1935. And so he got involved in many things were happening in those times. BC's, just starting to get a roll on. And then later on, Father Dolan became provincial. And so he's a key guy. He grew up in St. Joseph's in Roxbury and walked to BC High. And then after 1 year, he decided to become a Jesuit. And then, so the next person to take over BC at that time, was Lewis Gallagher. And I'm going to point out, see Lewis up there, okay? Now, Lewis Gallagher didn't serve a 6-year term. He did 5 years. But he was a superstar. He had been in Russia, and they were, when there was the split in the church, from the Roman Church to the Eastern Rite. If you went and stayed with the Roman Church, you would be martyred, okay? And so, they were killing each other back and forth. Not the Romans, not our church, not but the other guys out there. They played tough, and they'd be very nice to you. And if you didn't join, they'd kill you. And so those Russians, I'm sure I like those guys. And so Lewis Gallagher was this dapper, handsome guy, and the Pope, the Roman Pope, sent him to Russia, and he got along with everyone. He stayed there for 2 years and brought back a saint's body, he was canonized later on in 1937. And his name was Andrew Babola, okay, the person who was canonized. Okay, then we had Father McGarry, and Father McGarry was the president of Boston College for 2 years, and he was, basically in bad health, but he was a scholar, and he took this writing about the saint involved and wrote about that in one of the Catholic journals. But he was only president for 2 years. And then William Murphy, he was 1939 through 1945. And we're going to point him out. William, he's a dude, good profile. So William Murphy was the guy who was the president during the national title of the football games. And he was going on, BC was on everything because, again, it was this small boys' day school, and people loved the fact that they were kicking butt. And, of course, they had a great coach that was doing this. And so then we have Father Joseph Maxwell, and everyone knows Maxie. And so he basically was from 1951 through 1958. But during the 1940s, he had been the president out at Holy Cross, and they were evaluated out there, and the evaluations weren't that great because they didn't have enough PhDs. And so Maxie was an academic guy, and he was set forth to, enhance the reputation of Holy Cross, even though Holy Cross was really, between BC and Holy Cross was looking down on us as a city school. And so Father Maxwell is a very good friend of Father Frank Sullivan, who we're going to talk about later. Then we have William Kelleher, and he did some great things after 1946. And he was 1946 through 1951, and he built Lions Hall and Fulton Hall and the maintenance building. At the same time, Father Sullivan, my friend that we're going to be talking about, he was in the Marines, as I say, and he got out of the Navy and a little bit of tweaking at 1946. So he was now back in Boston. And so he was out raising money for a gymnasium for the boys, okay? And everyone loved him because he was the guy that put the national championship team together. If there was any problem with anything, Father Sullivan would go and make it up and have someone would tutor this guy. and they went down to play Fordham in New York. And so the lads were doing well, and he said, well, we'll try an experiment. We'll go down to Fall River and take the ferry over to New York. And this is the way sometimes they travel. It was longer, but it might be nice for the boys. So the boys drank beer, okay? And basically, there was some little acting out, and he told them that he was going to cancel the game. And so everyone was saying, oh, Father, we won't, you know. So they played and won, of course. And so Father always had, he was going to cancel something if everything wasn't working out, and we believed him. Okay, so the idea of the we believed him, I wanted to point out that when I was here at BC, I was a freshman and sophomore after the Marines, and so I worked at Howard Johnson's on Sundays, and then I got a job working at Wonder Bread in manufacturing over in Upton's Corner in Dorchester, and this was a union job, and the pay was outstanding. And so if anyone had anything to do, and I'd go there, and you had to stay over for time and a half, I'd be there. And so this was sort of a working place school. Kids would be working everywhere. And the school would close basically at 3 o'clock. It would be running 9 to 3. And so anyway, you know, here we are at this period of time. And so I'm sort of jumping myself here, but I'm trying to get in the presidents and to try to tell you as well that I lived at BC then starting in 1960 to 62. And so Father Sullivan was friend of all of these guys, and they would come and visit with him. And if we might have some slides there. Yeah. Okay, that's where they are now. Okay. Okay, and so this is Alumni Hall, and this was my room, okay, up here. And so when you let a Forest Hills guy into anything, okay, what happens is they bring their friends. And so pretty soon I had Tommy Lawler, who was he was a year behind me, and basically, you know, made sure he knew Father, so that if there was going to be an opening next year, I did 2 years there, that Tommy would be able to fill in and be my roommate. And by the time we were through, there were 6 consecutive Forest Hills guys that had Alumni Hall. And he would refer to that as Twomey's relatives, okay? And but it was wonderful and just a wonderful experience. But, you know, we got to love this extraordinary man. But by this time, you know, he was, you know, getting quite old. And basically I'd drive him places, and he would be a wonderful person. So this is Alumni Hall. And when I started working there, they told me, you know, this is all you have to do at night. You just simply go check the wastebaskets and empty the wastebaskets. And at that time, they had administratives living there, not living there, but working there. And they ran a magazine out of there, a BC magazine. And we helped put that out, you know, 3 times a year. But this was very light. And so Father had a talk with me after about 2 years, and he said to me, Davy, they're saying that you don't empty Tom Murray's basket. And I say, Father, okay, all I see is 1 or 2 pieces of paper in there. It's not full. Okay? Concept at home, the Twomey's house. You empty the basket when it was full, okay? And so, you know, to this day, this is one of the things that I'm always looking for, to take care of my basket. So, you know, we took care of that. That was the only mistake I've made in several years by that time, so no one had any problems with it. We pop a little bit. So this is Alumni Hall, and this is where we meet Father Sullivan. And this is the guy that is the brains behind and the moving person behind BC's national championship. And so he's out there raising money, and he raises for the $300,000 for the gymnasium. At least people are thinking that. And he's selling bricks, okay? And I had something you were going to read for me. This is my student, Chris, okay, who has been my assistant for 4 years. And there's a time each semester when I spot some people that are not doing well, and I introduce them to Chris, and they set up meetings. And these guys really, really turn around. And they turn around because Chris is awesome. He's one of the top guys in our school, and he understands things so wonderfully. And so Chris is going to read a little bit from Father Sullivan. And so I've got a handout. And the handout basically is, do we have that handout? Yeah. So, and you know the Illustrated History of Boston College? Has anyone read that? That would be a good thing. Okay, so the authors of that listed that BC, they were undefeated, but they really were not national champs. And, so I've taken them on and basically raised this when I read about it, and raised it several places and really took it very high. And I thought that I had received that an understanding that it was going to be corrected. And so I can't really leave. This is the reason for me being here. When a person said, you could do this, I want to leave with you, something that you can read about. And so this is Father Donaghy. And Father Donaghy was the president of Holy Cross and then came down to Boston College just as a transitional period. And, he went back to Holy Cross as a full professor. But so this is a wonderful speech that he gave for a testimonial to and for Father Sullivan in 1970. And so I was teaching at that time, and I was part of a committee that got together to celebrate, Father Sullivan, all he had done for BC. And Father Donaghy is such an incredible writer that we're not going to read the entire speech, but I'm going to have Chris read a little bit for us.
After the quietly and exquisitely elegant tribute to Father Pierce to Father Sullivan in the liturgical phrase of this salute this afternoon, there's little left to say. I shall only add that 50 years, though it seems long in a time in any man's calendar, has been for Father Frank a wisp of time, a brushing of the wing, because he has remained perennially young. There is much to talk now that the generation gap, one of those handy phrases, a tidy little cliche which saves the minds of modern men from the frightful turbulence of tonight. There's supposed to be an unbridgeable chasm which opens between those of his age and anyone east of 1955. The strangers staring across this gulf have no common idiom, no shared ideals, no means of communication. It reminds one of three men, all very hard of hearing, who were riding through the English countryside in a train. The British train huffed, puffed, lurched to a rural stop. The first of the three, looking out the window at the station sign, announced, "This is Wembley." "No, it isn't," the second rejoined. "This is Thursday." "So am I," said the third one chimed in. "Let's all go in and have a drink."
Okay, so we're running out of time. So you're going to be able to read this, but you're going to be surprised just the eloquence. And he's going to talk about Father Sullivan in here, and also going to talk about Father McElroy, okay? And lest there be any doubt about what an incredible man Father McElroy is, okay? And I can't believe that this guy is up and thinking I'm going to walk away when I'm going to do, I've got a little bit more time, okay? Okay, and so what can I say in 1 minute? So I've got a couple of hours, okay? We got out of the bar, and I'm going to finish with this. But, so basically, let's go and finish our photos, okay? So just we'll run these through, okay? Okay, that's me and my two grandchildren. This is Jim Cuniff, my pal. He's from the 8th grade. We've been in class forever, okay? Looks like two Norwegian, ship holders. Okay, this is me and my dog, okay? This is Veronica, my wife, okay? And this is why I didn't go. Father Maxwell invited me to come down for a year to work in Jamaica, and I was thinking seriously about it, and I ran across that, okay? And anyway, let's go forward. That's me climbing a glacier in New Zealand. People were very impressed, and that was about, okay, we'll move on. Okay, that's a squish. My class, we would go to the Arboretum. Okay, my goodness, let's go. And another one, football in the fall, and we would go to sometime, well, go ahead. We'd go to Doyle's Cafe in Jamaica Plain. Okay, another one in the Arboretum. Okay, that's Doyle's Cafe before it closed down, and we're very disappointed it did. Okay, we'll go to the next one. We could go to a house, we could do a spaghetti dinner over across the way, and we did that, then that closed, This was for commuters. Go ahead. Again, we're back to, go quickly, we've been there. These are guys at one of the, I was going to say lodges down below, some fancy word. Okay, go ahead. Again, we're really overdoing that one. Come on. I think we thought we took that out, okay? Okay, quickly, football. And this is a gathering we would have in March, and at the Carroll School we'd have just simply senior faculty forum gathering. We would talk about things, people retiring, but most importantly, celebrating things within our community at the Carroll School, okay? Okay, this is First National. What is that about? That's my red wagon, okay? And as I said, I did that for 4 years. And so we're going through Jamaica Plain, not Forest Hills. And I'm walking around a group of women with a baby. And I hear, "David, Twomey, don't you dare walk by." And it was Agnes Hoy with him. He was a mom now, but the Hoys had 11 children. And they were all magnificent. And she then said, "No one from Forest Hills walks by another person from Forest Hills without saying hello," okay? And so that became, something that I do too much. And so that's my pal Jerry Buckley, who told me about the Alumni Hall job, okay? Friends have to help each other. That's big thing, friends. That's the message we're looking for today. Next one. That's my brother Eddie down in Brazil. And we went to Costello's bar in Jamaica Plain in Bingo Hoy. And Bingo, I'm not sure what his title was at the Mass Turnpike Authority, but anyone wanted a job, they would say Bingo. And so he was in World War II and big, strong guy. And so my brother and I go to Jamaica Plain, so we didn't know anyone. And so we watch the game for a beer or two, and we're leaving, and I say, "Bingo, Dave Twomey." And he looks at me and looks at my brother, and he says, "Oh, holy shit, not the priest." And he had been holding forth, I'm sure, using an F word from here and there. And so that's my brother, and he passed away recently, a couple of years ago. Okay, we're going forward. This is at the Mission Church. My daughter, my brother, my two daughters. Go ahead, next. This is Jack Connors' group. You can see Jack on the back. These are my guys from Forest Hills. And so I joined a golf club. I didn't have time for it. And so I could never get my children to go there either to eat. They would want to go to Bobby Burns's. And so I'm going to tell you, these are all Forest Hills guys, not all, okay? This is Dave McLaughlin up there is the Superior Court judge, parents from Galway. Johnny Mitchell, the Mitchells were from County Clare. And so there are two Mitchells there. There's Dr. Clardy is over here. Paul Lewis, Judge Lewis of the court, juvenile court. Jerry Buckley managed many brokerage firms in town. Bob Ambler is a friend of Arthur Lewis, who's a state senator back there. Jimmy, this is my pal, this is me, this is Dr. Ryan from the Harvard Medical School. And this is just a friend of ours, Barry Hammond from Braintree. And so these are all guys that come out of, the nuns and the Jesuits, okay? And stick together and help one another, like true-hearted men from the County Mayo, okay? So, okay, I'm done? I'm done, okay. Well, thank you guys.